Elix, welcome to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I guess I'm the co-host introducing the show. We just got sort of thrown into it, so good afternoon. And Elix, shall I defer to you?
I am here. I didn't listen to my music, and I'm just like listening to our producers say go, and I'm thinking, who is he talking to? But anyways, hello everyone, and welcome to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I'm your host, Coach Elix, and with me my amazing co-host.
The guy that already introduced himself, right? Stephen the Medium.
But Stephen the Medium is more than just Stephen the Medium. He's
Sure.
Stephen Masek, the attorney, and most importantly, my amazing, amazing husband. And Stephen, today we have an awesome show. It's all about reclaiming your power in uncertain times, finding strength when life feels out of control. And I think that is something that a lot of us are experiencing right about now for many, many reasons. But we're going to talk a little bit about that, a whole lot about that after our first segment, because first and foremost, Stephen, it's been 2 weeks since our last live show because
Yes.
we've been out and about.
Yes.
And so I know I got to talk about Puerto Rico and Bad Bunny. Stephen, to me, that was an experience of a lifetime, one of a kind, and I don't think I will ever, ever forget that concert. Bad Bunny, if you don't know who Bad Bunny is, I'm telling you right now, we cannot be friends. So maybe do some Google and look him up. He's a Puerto Rican legend. He's actually quite well known in the U.S. market now. He's doing a lot of talk shows, SNL Live, and
Happy Gilmore.
in Happy Gilmore. That's right. And he decided to do a residency in Puerto Rico. He is, first of all, he's one of the most authentic people you'll ever see. He's super talented, and he is really committed to giving back to Puerto Rico. So, of course, he could do a residency in Vegas like many of the big stars, but he decided that he's going to do a residency in Puerto Rico. So if you want to see him, that's the only way, the only place that you can see him. And they put the tickets out. They've been sold out since the moment they went on sale. The stadium holds 50,000 people, and every single show has been sold out. They've added more shows, and Stephen and I were blessed by an angel called Eva Milagros.
Don't forget the Milagros.
The Milagros. She's my cousin from Puerto Rico. She went into a lottery in Puerto Rico. She knew I really, 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 really wanted to see Bad Bunny. She got tickets. And instead of keeping the tickets for her, she gave them to me and Steven. How generous is that from anyone? And but that's not all. I just remember what was the name of her?
Oh, that was that exercise video.
Yeah.
Well, that's not
all. Oh my God, we sound like two nuts. If you just tuned in, please just hold on. We got a lot of substance in this conversation. But anyways, that wasn't all. Tickets were actually in the arena, and they appear to be really awesome tickets. And then, we traveled to Puerto Rico. I went in first. Stephen, she dropped him off later. I wanted to go in there to make sure in case there was a huge line, because these are huge crowds. But
whoa! You gotta just preface this here, man.
What?
I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah, okay.
So
that's
2
why I
days-
have you for. You can preface it. Go ahead.
So I will do this very quickly. 2 days before the concert. So the concert's Friday. I think Wednesday, Elix and I are in Puerto Rico. We're in this gorgeous apartment we stay in on this balcony. And I said to him, listen, I want to do something with you. So to make a long story short,
Yes.
I just did this sort of meditation for the two of us. And I really walked both of us through already experiencing the concert, already having being every concert. Bad Bunny picks somebody to come into what's called the casita. This the house that he grew up in that's recreated. I mean, Elix will tell you more, but it's beautiful. So my focus was, I want to already have us go through the concert and be picked to be in the casita and just have the time of our life. So he invites people like professional dancers and celebrities in the casita. So that was the goal of this. So I led Elix on this like little mini meditation using our energy and really already being there, like seeing a parallel life that we already went to the concert, we were already in the casita, and we had the most incredible time. We felt it, and then we talked about it afterwards. So that was the setup, right? 2 days before.
Yeah,
So then
exactly.
Resume.
So then, by the way, so the stage has he has two stages, one in the front of the stadium, one in the back, which is what Steven is talking about, which is a replica of the house that he grew up in. And because it's the house he grew up in, you know, the metaphor behind it is that any guest, he invites them to his home. So that is like an invitation to be in his home. And he does half the show, the latter half, in the back, in the casita, as Steven said, his house. Anyway, so we walked in. By the way, our seats had a special entrance. There were no wait. It was like magical, freaking magical. And we walked to the to find the seat, and the guard says, "Oh, your seats do not exist. You have to go to the relocation table." Now that takes me into panic mode because I'm thinking, "Oh dear God, please tell me that our seats are not going to be somewhere in a balcony somehow." So
and our original seats, Helix, on the floor were like maybe smack dab in the middle, right? So
yes,
they were amazing seats, but they were in the middle. So you weren't, you were on the floor, but you weren't close to either the mountains or the casita.
Exactly. But they were great seats.
Right,
I was very excited about that. Anyways, so we go to the relocation table. They handed me tickets. I asked. She says, "Oh, production has already handled this. Here's your your new seats." And I just looked at them, and then I looked at Steven, and I say, OMG, those new seats were right, like I'm telling you, there were no seats next to Steven. They were right in front, directly against that house where he performed half his show. And if you want to get a sense, I know Steven posted some of the videos on Instagram. You got to see the videos. These videos are not Zoom. This is just a straightforward video. He was so close to us, touching distance.
I literally could have reached out. I could see his spit. I could have reached out and touched Bad Bunny. That's how we were at the front center next to the casita.
It was amazing. By the way, seats are, irrelevant because nobody sat. It was a party from the moment he starts. He starts on time at 9 and he finishes at midnight. It's 3 hours of full of music and amazing talent. And Steven, you and I danced the whole night. I sang every song that there is because I know his songs. And it was just an amazing time. I still listen to because they put out the show, so you can listen to all the songs exactly in the order in that he sang them in the show. And every time I listen to that, Steven, it transports me back to the concert, to being there, to being live. Oh my God, what an experience! And going back to your point, Steven, what I realize is, how you can really manifest anything, and you help me visualize what I thought would be hard, probably not even possible.
You know what the amazing thing, Elix, is that when Bad Bunny did pull up one guy into the casita, what was unbeknownst to us, that how he does it is he pulls you in, you yell out something in Spanish on the microphone, but then you go out of the casita and go back into your seats. So the universe did us even one better, because my focus was thinking, we're going to I want to get called into the casita and stay there, but that's not the way it works. So our seats were even better than someone going in for a minute to say something, yell in the microphone, and the audience screams, which is really cool. But we were at the casita, and it was, you know, I never understand how people, even when I talk about this, just they just don't grasp it, and I think, why? Like, look what just happened. And I said to you, Elix, this was a perfect example of the universe just letting us know what you're doing works.
Yeah,
It works.
And the universe is listening.
Yeah,
And
of course.
whatever you speak, whatever you ask, it gives to you. And I'm telling you, again, I think back to that experience, and I just, oh my goodness, I could go back, I could relive it again and again and again and again, because it was just amazing. So, and we had an amazing time in Puerto Rico, by the way. We had an amazing time. We got to see our family. Sadly, one of my uncles had passed away that Sunday. So, in a positive way, we did get to go to the wake, and I got to see my family. But we spent great time at the beach every day. We did some amazing workouts running together, and we ate some pretty amazing food. Just pretty amazing food. So I think overall Puerto Rico was 5 stars. What would you say?
I think it was 10 stars. No,
So
seriously, every single thing was leading right up to Bad Bunny. But, going to dinner, seeing your family, spending, as you just mentioned, time with Eva Milagros and her daughter Mariana and her boyfriend Xavier. No, it was it was a great. We worked out we ran every day, like you mentioned. We ate such great food, and it was from Tuesday to Saturday. It was a phenomenal trip.
yeah, and my cousin. Let me just say briefly again. That is a pure example of what true giving it looks like. She gave us the tickets, never ever expect. Of course, I paid her for the tickets, but she never ever expected anything in return. And instead, not only did she take Steven to the stadium, she chauffeured us around. We got to go to Bad Bunny's uh, coffee. I don't know, even a restaurant, whatever the hell you call
Cafe
that.
Con Ron.
Café con Ron. It was amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
So I am so appreciative of my cousin Eva Milagros. If
We
you're
love you.
listening, we love you. But anyways, but what I we need to love right now is that
Me?
you, and of course that we need to take a commercial break. When we come back, we're gonna talk about reclaiming your power in uncertain times, finding strength when life feels out of control. We will be right back. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I am your host, Coach Elix, and with me, my amazing co host,
Stephen Frederick is in the house.
I should say, my amazing husband and co host, Stephen Frederick, Stephen the Medium. And today's conversation is titled Reclaiming Your Power in Uncertain Times, Finding Strength When Life Feels Out of Control. Because to be honest, Stephen, uncertainty is a constant in our lives. And sometimes it shows up in small ways, like a plan falling apart or a goal setting getting delayed. But other times it shakes us to our core, whether it's an unexpected loss which you deal with often in what you do, big transitions or moments where it feels like the ground disappear from beneath us, and we both have experienced that. So in those moments, it's very easy to feel powerless, like life is happening to you instead of for you. And I know that feeling well because growing up, I created a narrative for myself that I wasn't enough. And for years, I lived as though that story was my truth, my reality. But here's what I've learned: for those powerless moments, they don't define us. We always have the ability to pause, the ability to choose, and the ability to write a new chapter. So today, that is what we're going to be talking about. Stephen and I are going to talk about how you can reclaim your power when life feels uncertain, and how to find strength even when everything feels out of control, and how to blend. We're going to do a little blending of neuroscience, which is my specialty, with spirituality, which is Stephen's specialty, to help you shift your mindset in a very powerful way. And of course, we always want to hear from you. So if you want to give us a call, 508-222-1320, and share. Where in your life do you feel powerless right now? So that's it, Stephen. I like I said at the beginning, I think this conversation is a conversation that's impacting many of us for many different reasons. Why? Let's start with this, Stephen. Why do you think this is a really important subject about reclaiming our power in uncertain times?
Well, I think for a lot of people, Elix, you have to even back up from reclaiming your power, because reclaiming means you lost it. And I think that there's so many people out there that are they have to start at the first part of this is finding out they even have power, and then how powerful they are, and then in sort of being introduced to that power. Because when you live a certain life, like you just talked about your experience, my experience, we had similar experiences. We got there differently, but my father killing himself when I was 8 years old, for decades, I had no idea I even had power. Like if someone said to me, reclaim your power, I would have looked at them and said, reclaim what? Like, what does that mean? I didn't know I had power. I didn't know I had any power in me. I didn't know I was powerful. I knew nothing. I was just so into living a particular way of just self-hatred and just chaotic a chaotic life and whatnot. So, but there's the greatest thing is that when you do know you have power, or if you do and you've lost it and you're reclaiming it, like you mentioned. It's where we're supposed to be. Like when we're born, we're supposed to be in our power. We're supposed to know about our power. We're supposed to become best friends with our power, because that also is in conjunction with your meaning, your passion, your purpose. So I think from doing the job that I do as a medium, and as a matter of fact, even representing kids for many, many years, and talking to the kids and parents, you can, just in the conversations, you can hear how people talk as if they're powerless. And in the spirit realm, spirit tells me that all the time, that I wish when I was in the physical world, I realized I even had power, or I just gave it away and never thought I was good enough to get it back.
Yeah.
So I think this is such a very, very important conversation, because once you either reclaim or realize you have power and you tap into that power, then you're boundless, right? I mean, you're extraordinary. Your life is amazing.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting you say that, Stephen, because just recently, last week, I was in a conversation with a client, you know, a CEO, and I was talking to him about, you know, you are experiencing a loss of power, and he literally said to me, "You got to explain that to me. I just don't know, you know, why, where do you see I've experienced a loss of power?" So that was a moment for me to realize that often, you know, when we're in it, in the weeds, we don't even know that we've lost power. So that is a great question to ask yourself. You know, do I have power, or have I lost that power? And I think, Stephen, for me, anyways, and I love that you brought, you know, what you do as a medium and people coming to you. But for me, I will say, a sign that you've lost your, because think about it, right? If you visualize you holding on to your power, and then you lose it, or you give it away because of the circumstances or whatever the situation. And by the way, uncertainty often leads to giving away power, right? So you just give it away. And if you think of that, visualize what that looks like, that leaves you powerless. And I often say, think about what that means. When you are powerless, that only means you then become a victim. You are then seeing life through the filter of what's happening to me. I am a victim of the circumstances. So I would say a really good way to know for yourself, am I experiencing a loss of power, is really check in with yourself and notice, do you feel right now that life is happening to you, poor me, you know, or you feel sorry about, you know, what somebody did to you. That's, again, victim mentality, and that is a sign of being powerless. That is something that I look for when I'm working with my clients. Now, Stephen, people come to you, and they come to you because they're seeking something. Do you, in those conversations, do you get a sense that they feel powerless, that they, in the face of that loss, of that, you know, or their grief, or the uncertainty that they're experiencing because of that loss?
Absolutely. I don't. But for the most of the people I'm reading, I don't think they know they're powerless. They don't frame it that way. They don't. And if you don't, then it's very, very difficult to figure this out, right? I mean, they do feel powerless just by the conversations they're having with me. Spirit, of course, is giving them what they know they need to hear to get them back into either, you know, again, reclaiming their power or realizing that they have power. But, you know, I think one of the greatest things in this conversation, and it just like sort of dawned on me when you were talking about reclaiming your power, finding your power, it's like, just think of it this way. Think you're at home. So think it's the middle of winter, and it's a snowstorm and it's cold, and the power goes out. Like, what happens? Your whole existence changes, right? You lose heat. You know, you probably lose hot water. You're cold. You can't watch TV. You can't do work on the computer. You are completely in a different realm. You're just completely in a different vibration because you're powerless. The power was pulled from the plug. Or if you have, like, I don't know, 10 refrigerators lined up, and one of them, someone unplugs it, And so everyone then decides to use the other nine. And what's going to happen to the one that's powerless, that's unplugged? Nothing. Everything's going to go bad inside. Nobody's going to open it. No one's going to clean it. No one's going to take care of it. And I think that that's the piece that people miss. They feel it. We all have this, when we feel like we've lost our power, we all feel the same thing. The difference is, I think most people don't know. They just don't. They don't categorize it as I lost power. They're just trying to. And some people, I know in juvenile court, some people are just trying to make it every day without realizing what is actually going on.
Yeah, I love that analogy that you share with us, Stephen, because I would say every single one of us have experienced, is experiencing, or will experience that short circuit that you're talking about, where we know we lose power. And the question is, how do you now know, how, in the face of that, right? What do you do? Because again, we all lost power, but we don't stop moving forward because we've lost power. I'm talking this time. I'm talking about using the analogy that you shared, Stephen, like literally losing the lights at home. Having a power shortage, for if you will. So it's about, you know once you learn or you understand, oh, this is what happened, then you can then begin to create some strategy to deal with it.
Yes, I completely agree, and I'll tell you, Elix, um, something like the analogy I just gave you, pulling the plug, losing your electricity, that is very overt, right? I mean, that's you see it, you know it. It's like someone doesn't have to tell you the TV just went off or the lights just went off, so you know, right? When we're as individuals, as people, we don't always, and many times ever, get that very distinct way to tell us we don't have our power, we lost our power. And but I will tell you, when we get back from break, I will tell you, people, in my perspective, one of the biggest ways you can figure out, are you not anywhere near your power?
Yeah, and I will say, also, Stephen, that ways to know, or things that we experience that cause the same effect as unplugging, that electricity is, you lost a job, you lost somebody that you love, something happened where you had an argument with someone. All of those things um, can create that short circuit that can lead to losing that electricity, as you so beautifully shared. But right now we have to take another commercial break. So let's do that, and when we come back, we'll continue with this amazing conversation. Stay with us, and if you want to call us, 508-222-1320, or you can share your thoughts on the online. We'll be right back. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Helix. I'm your host, Coach Helix, and with me, my amazing husband and co host,
Stephen, the medium.
Stephen the Medium's in the house. And today we're having what I think can be a transformational conversation, reclaiming your power in uncertain times, finding strength when life feels out of control. So, Stephen, question for you, and then you can get into your thoughts that you wanted to share before the break. How can we move from that powerlessness to choice?
Well, you're just like bringing me right into my segment, Elix.
Very.
Thank you.
That's why we have this connection.
Yes,
There you
like
go.
it absolutely is. So, I think to answer this question, I think if you're wondering and you're listening to this and thinking, I'm not really sure. Like, I feel like I have my power, but is there more power that I don't know about? Is there, like, if you're just questioning things and wondering, am I best friends with my power? Am I using my power? Do I not even know? Or I haven't reclaimed it. I don't even know it's there. I think, Elix, and we just talked about this in Puerto Rico. I think one of the best ways to figure this out, because power comes from your internal structure. Power doesn't come from any place else except your soul and your heart, right? It's internal. So that's where it comes from. That's the base of it, the foundation. That's where it lives. And it won't live and it can't live anywhere else except within you. Because you're talking about yourself and you're talking about reclaiming, understanding you have power. So it's internal. One of the ways to figure out whether, like, sort of gauge where you are on this sort of power grid, if you will, is how much on a daily basis are you determining how you feel based on what's happening externally. Like, are you a person that is constantly in social media posting things and just seeing how many likes you get? Or are you a person that just has to always ask someone, what do I look like? Or, does this look good on me? Do you think I gained weight? Or, and constantly getting that external validation. Now, there's nothing wrong with coming down with your husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend. It doesn't matter. There's nothing wrong with saying, does this look good? I mean, best friends do it. I completely get that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the external validation dictates how your day is going to go, whether you're going to be in a good mood or a bad mood. When you're out and about and say someone walks by you and says, I love the dress, I love your hair, of course that makes all of us feel great. But on sort of that grid, is it 100% making you feel great because it's an external validation? Or is it a beautiful thing to hear, but deep down in your heart, I love hearing that, but I don't necessarily need to hear that? And one of the things, Helix, we talked about, as a matter of fact, when we were running, and I just actually learned this, is that when I wake up in the morning, I look at before I get out of bed, I look at the end of the bed or the edge of the bed, and I see two Stevens. They're both looking not at me. I see the back of me, just like it's my body. It's just like me and my third eye. And I always say the one on the left is the one that is looking for 100% external validation. If I post something, if I don't get many likes or views, then I start thinking, why did I post this? This is a stupid thing to post. It didn't catch people's eyes. And everything is determined based on the external day, and that's going to dictate what the day is going to be like. And so on the right side is the Stephen that doesn't care anything about the external piece, that is going to, right from picking him, is going to know how my day is going to be. I am not letting anything external, I'm not letting this world dictate to me what my life and day is going to be like. It's nice and great if I get compliments, if I get some great positive things, but I'm starting from the getting out of bed thinking, I already know what this day is going to be like, because you know what? I'm connected to my power. I know me, I know my power, I know why I'm here, I know my meaning, and that's who I choose. And then once I choose the right Stephen, I just look to the left and just blow that left Stephen up, and I start my day. That's how it works.
And what we talked about during that run is that side, that the one that relies, that the Stephen that relies on, somebody telling you how good you are, or getting compliments, or whatever that is, right? That 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 part of you comes from the ego, right? Ego
Yes.
self. The other one, the one where you say, I am going to step into being the best version of me, comes from, from that higher power self. You could call it, spirituality,
Your soul.
whatever, your soul, exactly, whatever it is, that works for you. But I will also add, Stephen, I love our work because our work actually, it just intersects so beautifully from a neuroscience perspective. Anytime when the ego is in control, the ego activates our fear network. And our fear network is that part of our brain where, it's designed to protect and defend you when it perceives a threat. And what happens is when there's uncertainty, right? When there are circumstances that happen and we're left with I don't know what to do, or like using Steven's analogy, somebody unplugs the electricity and then all of a sudden you're in the dark and you don't even know how you got there. Our brain is hardwired to, when there is uncertainty or unknown, it feels in the blank. In that feeling in the blank, it's led by that ego. So that's when you start feeling, oh my God, I'm not good enough. Oh my God, they're judging me. Oh my God, did I do something wrong? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, feeling the blank, whatever that is. And that is more of feeding that other side, Stephen, I don't remember what you call it, but it's feeding that other side of you that is only designed to keep you business as usual in the same place. Does that make sense, Stephen?
Of course. I mean, I love what you just said. And it is, I always tell people, when I'm teaching, is that there's really, we're made up of two things, our souls and our personality. So the personality is the ego, like you just mentioned, Elix. It's what, since we've been on this earth throughout these years, what we picked up. And, what we pick up are so many beliefs that are not true, that we carry, and the ego, like you just mentioned, Delix, is ready to defend those beliefs because the ego thinks that it's a protection mechanism, right? That the ego is doing it to help you, to serve you, because that's the way it's been forever. And actually, it's the opposite. Those beliefs that you've picked up, whatever those beliefs are, and every single one of us has them, is a barrier between us finding our power or not finding our power.
That's awesome, Stephen. And there's a difference. So don't confuse control with power. We often think of control and power as sort of being the same, but they're not the same. Control is actually something that is fed by that ego. You need to be in control. You need to be the one. Actually, I believe that when you surrender that's when your true power that comes from the soul gets activated.
I completely agree.
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
I you know what? Something that I just want to share before we go to break is that today, for the first time ever, and I posted this morning, I went to do a yoga class. Never did yoga ever in my life. And being a medium, yoga is under the same umbrella. It's very spiritual. And you would think that I would have done yoga. Why have I never done yoga before? It's because of that section of me or that part of me that wasn't best friends with my power. It was more of that external validation, but in this case was I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to look like a fool. People are going to look at me like, what's he doing? What happens if I can't bend the way that everyone else is bending? It was all the opposite of what I talked about earlier about getting external validation about you look great and all these compliments. There's also the other side of that external validation of I'm going to look like an idiot. I'm going to look like a fool. I don't know what I'm doing. I just can't go there. I don't know who's going to be there. Those are those beliefs that I just talked about that don't serve me, and they're not true. It was all about like I wasn't going to yoga because the external part of that was dictating to me I can't go to yoga because of all this. Yeah. So you know what? Today I went to yoga by myself, and I loved it. I was in a sea of 15 women. I was the only guy, and I loved it because I said I never did yoga before, and it was like I was their son. Everyone was taking care of me, and I loved it. And you know what? When you get there and you realize I just broke through something, and I just got even more power back. It's just a place that you can't describe. It is incredible.
Beautiful. And with that said, it is time to take another commercial break. But here's what I invite you. If you're listening, I'm going to invite you to take a moment to reflect. What's one choice you still have, even when everything around you feels uncertain? Again, what's one choice you still have when everything around you still feels uncertain? Let's take a break. We'll be right back and continue with this conversation. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I'm your host, Coach Elix, and with me, my amazing husband and co-host,
Stephen Frederick.
Stephen the Medium. And before the break, we asked you to reflect on one choice you still have, even when life feels uncertain. So, Stephen, when it comes to, spirituality, what do you think is one choice one would have even when life feels uncertain?
I would think, whether it's under spirituality or under anything, to be honest, Felix, I think just knowing that you can give yourself a break, you can give yourself grace. That's because again, it goes back to the power that resides inside you, right, in your heart and your soul. And no matter what happens, and no matter how you're feeling, or whether you're down or sad, or you feel like you did something that you shouldn't have done, whatever the case may be, the one thing you always have is yourself, to give yourself grace. It's like coming home to a dog, that that unconditional love, that no matter what, it doesn't matter, when you open that door, that dog is just like, oh my God, like you haven't been there for 2 years, right? And you went out there for 5 minutes to get the mail. They're like so excited, right? It's always there. And I think that's that choice of always being able to check in with yourself and just give yourself grace and forgive yourself is just something that you can always control.
I absolutely agree with you. From a coaching perspective, one thing that I always share with my clients is that, listen, life is going to happen. There's nothing you can do to stop life from happening. Sometimes there'll be good days, sometimes there'll be bad days, sometimes there'll be terrible days. So trying to control how life happens, good luck with that, because it's probably going to be pretty difficult. It's like, if you look out the window, today's sunny, and it's the way it is. You can't make it rain if it's sunny, the other way around as well. However, the circumstances are always going to be whatever the circumstances are. So there's no choice there, but there's always a choice in how are you going to show up in the face of the circumstances. And that's what I would say. There's always that choice. So if it's raining outside and you want to be miserable because you allegedly hate rain, that's your choice. If you say you got an unexpected news that you lost your job, and and that's not to say that you shouldn't give yourself some grace and give yourself some time to feel bad about it. But if you choose to then empower being a victim about that, and then you go into the poor me and then you don't do anything about it, that's a choice. And that's a choice that it's not necessarily going to lead to you feeling better about whatever the circumstances are. So the circumstances are whatever they are. There's no choice in there, but there's a choice always in how it is that you show up in the face of the circumstances. And I think, to me, Stephen, that's probably one of the biggest lessons that I've carry on with me. And having learned as much as I've learned hearing you speak to, the spirit world, I think that is something to always be reminded. What would you say, Stephen?
I love what you're just saying about showing up. I think as you're saying it, the one thing that always pops into my head, being born in New England, when the winter comes, and whether it's just in conversation, whether now it's on social media, the complaints of how cold it is, the complaints that there's too much snow, the complaints, and you step back and, like, first and foremost, you live here, and that's what happens in winter. But I'll tell you, more than that, imagine you complaining about it's so cold, or there's too much snow, I hate the snow. And imagine at the second you do that, the universe freezes everybody. Every single person in the world is frozen, and that the universe then labels every one of us. You know what you're labeled? The complainer. That's what you're labeled, the complainer. On the back of you is a big sign that says the complainer. And then you've got someone else who doesn't necessarily like the snow and doesn't necessarily like the cold, but just is looking at it as a perspective of, I live here, and listen, there's so many other things to be grateful for. And you're frozen, and your back sign may say the optimist or joy or happy, or I mean, what do you want to be labeled?
Yeah, Stephen, I love listening to that. In that, I don't know if I share these with the audience in previous shows. I know I've shared it with some of my clients in conversations, but I grew up. My aunt, I called her Taiti, was like a mother figure for me. And this woman, the person that I am today, it's because of who she was for me. I mean, she installed in me, so many great core values about, believing that anything it's possible. And Stephen, it was much later in life when I realized that she lived in poverty. When I was with her as a young kid, I never experienced poverty around her. And what I realized was that's because she never saw herself as poor. She saw herself as rich of so many things in life. And to be honest with you, that's what I learned. That's where my appreciation for the golden nuggets in life comes from, because I remember being so young and always listening to her, being grateful for even the smallest of the smallest of the smallest things. Yet, later on, as I grew up older, I realized, wow, she lived in poverty. Yet, she was the richest, wealthiest person I've ever met in my life. And I think that if I was to give you guys listening a giveaway, would be that no matter what it is that you're facing, no matter what it is that life is giving you in this very moment, whether it's good, bad, neutral, whatever, terrible, I want you to find the silver lining. There is always, I promise you, there's always a silver lining. Even when you're dealing with loss, there's always a silver lining. When my mom passed, she passed. I was devastated. I was sad. But the silver lining was, oh my goodness, what a great opportunity. What a privilege it was to have her die here at home with me, to be there in that moment. That was the silver lining. And that's what allowed me to see something beautiful in the midst of something sad and bad. Stephen, anything else you want to add?
No, I listen. I think it's the best advice for anybody who's listening and always finding the silver lining. And I just always say, you have to trust life, even when life is kicking you in the butt. And it's like one thing after another after another. If you feed that, just like I talked about the complainer, if you feed it, you're going to sit in there way longer than if you were to, like you just said, Elix, look for the silver lining and know that I know I'm going through this. I know there's a reason, and life is giving this to me to get me to a better place on the other end of that. If you keep that perspective, you will get out of whatever you're in much, much faster.
So I think, to Stephen, because we're at the top of the hour, I think we've had an incredible conversation today about reclaiming, our power in uncertain times and finding strength, even when life feels out of control. And I appreciate you guys listening. Stephen, of course, I always appreciate your insight. But before we go, tell people where they can find you. And anything else they need to know about you, Stephen?
You can find me under Stephen the Medium. That's my website, stephenthemedium.com. So you can go there, take a look at what's going on event-wise, or booking an appointment virtually or in my office in New Bedford. And on social media, it's all the same, Stephen the Medium.
Beautiful. And you can find me at Coach Elix anywhere on social media. And we'll be back next week. And until then, have an amazing weekend. And by the way, thank you, Dave, for producing our show, because our producer, Mark, it's still out recovering from hand and foot surgery. And we wish him, a speedy recovery. And we wish him to be back as soon as he is able to. But in the interim, Dave is taking charge of these this boss. Let's call it a boss for now. But everyone, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye-bye.